The rhythmic beeping of the monitor echoed through the sterile hospital room, a constant reminder of the fragile line Ava was walking between life and death. She clutched the bedrail, her knuckles white, as waves of pain radiated from her swollen abdomen. The doctor's voice replayed in her mind like a haunting refrain: "This surgery is critical for both you and your baby." Ava's pulse raced, her thoughts swinging between fear for her unborn child and the ominous question of how her husband, Liam, would react. The door flew open with a loud crash, slamming against the wall, and Liam stormed in, his face twisted in anger, and his sharp tone cut through the tension. "Do you think I'm made of money, Ava?" he barked. "You expect me to pay for this nonsense?" Ava's breath caught in her throat. She had prepared herself for Liam's frustration, but not this. "Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This isn't just about money. It's about saving our baby's life and mine." But Liam wasn't listening. His fury seemed to swell with each passing second, his words turning cruel. "You're always so dramatic. Why did we even have a kid if you can't handle it?" Ava's chest tightened, tears welling in her eyes. "Please," she begged, trying to remain calm. "Just listen." Her words were cut short as Liam lunged forward, his hand grabbing a fistful of her hair. Pain seared through her scalp, and before she could react, his free hand struck her across the face. The slap rang out in the small room, leaving her cheek burning and her vision spinning. "Let go of her," the nurse's voice shattered the moment. Claire, a middle-aged woman with a determined expression, rushed into the room, her presence a beacon of safety. "Step away now," she demanded, picking up the phone to call for security. Liam released Ava abruptly, glaring at both women before snarling. "You'll regret this," he stormed out, slamming the door behind him, leaving Ava shaking and clutching her stomach. As Claire approached, her voice softened. "You're safe now," she reassured, gently checking Ava's vitals, but Ava's tears fell freely. Safe wasn't a word she recognized anymore, not with a man like Liam in her life. At that moment, as the doctor re-entered to discuss the procedure, Ava realized something had to change for her child and herself. Ava once believed in fairy tales. When she first met Liam, he was charming and attentive, the kind of man who made her feel like the center of his world. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic gestures and sweet promises, painting a picture of a perfect future. But as time passed, Liam's mask began to slip. The little things were the first to change: criticisms disguised as jokes, a sharp word here or there. Slowly, Liam started asserting control over Ava's life, isolating her from friends and family under the guise of wanting more alone time as a couple. Ava's independence began to erode as Liam convinced her to leave her job, insisting that he could take care of everything financially. It wasn't long before his words turned cruel, cutting into her confidence. "You're so emotional, Ava," he would scoff during arguments. "No wonder you can't handle anything." The emotional abuse escalated, and then came the physical outbursts: shoves, grabs, and the occasional slap that Liam always excused as a mistake. Ava stayed, convincing herself that things would get better. She stayed because she loved the version of Liam he used to be. But with her pregnancy, his behavior grew worse. The hospital confrontation was a breaking point Ava never anticipated. She lay on the bed, pain rippling through her body as Liam's venomous words echoed around the room. "You expect me to pay for this nonsense," he had shouted, his anger boiling over into outright hostility. When Liam grabbed her hair and struck her, Ava's world seemed to slow. Her vision blurred, and she felt the overwhelming sting of betrayal. She had seen flashes of this temper before, but never in such a vulnerable moment. His attack wasn't just physical, it was a final confirmation of the abusive cycle she had been trapped in for years. The nurse's intervention was both a relief and a wake-up call. As Liam stormed out, leaving Ava trembling and broken, she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. Her unborn child was now part of this dangerous equation. When the doctor returned to discuss the surgery, Ava nodded numbly, barely processing the words. Her mind was elsewhere, replaying the moment Liam's hand had struck her cheek. Her tears weren't just from pain, they were from anger and fear. That night, as she lay alone in the hospital bed, Ava made a decision. She couldn't let her baby grow up in this environment. Liam's anger wasn't something her child should ever have to witness. Ava remembered Mia, her childhood best friend. The two had drifted apart over the years, but Mia had always been a source of comfort and strength. In the early hours of the morning, Ava reached for her phone with shaking hands and dialed Mia's number. When her voice came through the receiver, warm and familiar, Ava broke down. "Mia," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I need help." Without hesitation, Mia responded. "Whatever you need, Ava. You and the baby can stay with me." Those words were a lifeline. For the first time in years, Ava felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear: she couldn't go back to Liam. That chapter of her life was over. Ava arrived at Mia's apartment with her newborn in her arms, a small bag slung over her shoulder. It was all she could grab in the short time since leaving the hospital. The apartment was modest but warm, a stark contrast to the tension-filled home she had fled. Mia pulled her into a tight embrace. "You're safe here, Ava," she said softly, her voice steady with reassurance. Ava felt her resolve strengthen as she glanced down at her baby, sleeping peacefully for the first time since her birth. The first few days were a blur. Ava oscillated between exhaustion and overwhelming relief, finally free from Liam's constant scrutiny. Yet, fear lingered in the back of her mind. What if Liam came looking for her? What if he found them? Mia, however, was a pillar of support. She encouraged Ava to rest and helped care for the baby, offering moments of peace in the chaos. With Mia's help, Ava began to piece together a plan. She knew she couldn't hide forever. Liam's temper was dangerous, and the threat of his return loomed. It was Mia who suggested reaching out to a lawyer, and Ava knew it was the right step to take. Meeting Nicole was like stepping into a storm of controlled determination. The lawyer greeted Ava with a firm handshake and a look of genuine concern. Nicole specialized in family law, and as Ava recounted her story, the lawyer's expression shifted from sympathetic to fiercely determined. "You did the right thing by leaving," Nicole said firmly. "Now we need to ensure your safety and build a case against Liam." Ava felt a flicker of hope as Nicole explained the steps they would take. The priority was filing for an emergency protective order. Nicole assured Ava that this would prevent Liam from coming near her or the baby, at least legally. "It's not foolproof," Nicole admitted, "but it's a start. We'll gather evidence to make sure the court understands the full extent of his behavior." Ava felt a pang of anxiety. Recounting the details of Liam's abuse wasn't easy, but she knew it was necessary. Her baby's safety depended on it. Over the next few weeks, Ava worked closely with Nicole to build her case. It wasn't easy. Each step required her to confront the trauma she had endured, but she reminded herself why she was doing this for her baby. Mia proved invaluable during this time, helping Ava organize photos of bruises Liam had left on her wrists and face, as well as screenshots of threatening text messages. The hospital nurse, Claire, even offered a written statement detailing the night Liam assaulted Ava in the labor room. "We need as much as possible," Nicole said. "Every detail strengthens our case." Late one night, as Ava fed her baby in the dim light of Mia's living room, she looked over the growing folder of evidence. It was painful to revisit those moments, but it also made her feel stronger. For the first time in years, she felt like she was taking control of her life. With the protective order in place and evidence mounting, Nicole began preparing Ava for the upcoming custody battle. The thought of facing Liam in court made her stomach churn, but Ava knew she had no choice. "You're not alone in this," Mia reminded her one evening. "You have me, Nicole, and everyone who believes in you." Ava nodded, her heart heavy but resolute. The days of fear and submission were over. It was time to fight back, not just for herself but for the future she wanted to give her child. As she kissed her baby's forehead that night, Ava whispered a silent promise. No matter what it took, she would protect her child from the man who had brought so much pain into their lives. The pieces were falling into place. The next battle was on the horizon, and Ava was ready to face it head-on. It didn't take long for Liam to retaliate. One afternoon, Ava was sitting on Mia's couch, feeding her baby, when a thunderous pounding echoed through the apartment. Her heart dropped as Liam's voice roared from the hallway. "Ava, open the door." "You can't keep my kid from me," he shouted, his words slurred with anger. Mia rushed to the door, peering through the peephole. "It's him," she whispered, her face pale but composed. She motioned for Ava to stay put and quietly called building security. The pounding grew louder, and Liam's threats became more vicious. "You'll regret this, Ava. Do you think you can just walk away? You've got another thing coming." Ava clutched her baby close, trying to steady her breathing. Her mind raced with memories of Liam's outbursts and the pain he had caused. But this time, she wasn't alone. When the security guards arrived, Liam was dragged away, still yelling threats down the hallway. That night, Ava reported the incident to Nicole, who was furious. "This is harassment and further evidence of his instability," Nicole said. "We'll use this to strengthen your case. His behavior is only digging a deeper hole for him." Though shaken, Ava felt a growing sense of determination. Liam's attempts to intimidate her wouldn't work anymore. The day of the custody hearing arrived, and Ava felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. As she entered the courtroom, she held her baby close, her heart pounding in her chest. On the other side of the room sat Liam, his expression cold and defiant, flanked by his lawyer. Nicole exuded calm confidence as she began presenting Ava's case. She painted a vivid picture of Liam's abusive behavior, highlighting the hospital assault, his neglect during Ava's pregnancy, and his recent intimidation attempts. Nicole's words were sharp and deliberate, leaving no room for doubt. Claire, the nurse who had intervened during the hospital incident, took the stand next. Her testimony was powerful, describing in detail how she had witnessed Liam's violent outburst. "A man who can attack his wife in the middle of a hospital room, during a medical emergency, cannot be trusted to care for a child, she concluded firmly. Liam's lawyer attempted to counter, accusing Ava of exaggerating her claims to alienate Liam from his child. She's emotional and overreacting, he argued. My client is simply a concerned father who was frustrated by financial pressures, but Nicole was unrelenting. Frustration doesn't justify violence, she shot back. This is not about financial stress, this is about a pattern of abuse. Photographs of Ava's injuries, screenshots of threatening messages, and security footage from the apartment incident left the courtroom silent. Liam shifted uncomfortably in his seat as each piece of evidence was presented. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the judge finally delivered his verdict. His voice was calm but firm as he addressed the courtroom. This court finds that Mr. Carter has demonstrated a history of abusive and neglectful behavior, making him unfit for unsupervised custody. He turned to Ava, offering a small nod. Full custody is awarded to Ms. Ava Carter. Mr. Carter will have limited visitation rights under strict supervision, pending further review. A wave of relief washed over Ava as the judge's words sank in. She glanced at Nicole, who gave her an encouraging smile. Liam, on the other hand, looked furious. He stood abruptly, glaring at Ava with a venomous intensity. This isn't over, he hissed before storming out of the courtroom. Ava's hands trembled, but this time it wasn't fear that consumed her, it was relief. For the first time, she felt like she had won a battle in the war for her and her child's safety. That evening, as she rocked her baby to sleep in Mia's apartment, Ava allowed herself to smile. The fight had been grueling, but she had taken an enormous step forward. Her child was safe, and Liam's grip on their lives had finally begun to loosen. Weeks after the custody hearing, Ava was beginning to adjust to her new reality. Life as a single mother was tough, but every challenge felt worth it when she held her baby close. Just as she began to feel a sense of normalcy, Nicole called with unexpected news. Ava, while preparing final filings for the custody case, we uncovered something significant in Liam's financial records, Nicole began. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and urgency. What kind of something? Ava asked, her heart quickening. He's been hiding money, multiple accounts with substantial funds he deliberately concealed during the court proceedings, Nicole explained. This is not only unethical but illegal. He had more than enough resources to support you and the baby but chose to withhold them. Ava felt a surge of anger and disbelief. While she had been struggling to pay medical bills and wondering how to secure her baby's future, Liam had secretly hoarded wealth. Nicole assured her that this revelation opened the door to a new case, one that could not only hold Liam accountable but also provide Ava with the financial support she deserved. After a moment of hesitation, Ava agreed to move forward. If this is what it takes to protect my child and ensure our future, then let's do it, she said, her voice steady. The second courtroom battle unfolded with even higher stakes. Nicole came prepared, armed with bank statements, transaction histories, and documentation proving Liam's deceit. She began her argument with a calm but cutting statement. Mr. Carter not only demonstrated a pattern of abuse, but also engaged in financial dishonesty to manipulate and control Ms. Carter. He withheld resources that could have ensured the well-being of his wife and child during a life-threatening situation. Liam's lawyer scrambled to counter the evidence, but the numbers didn't lie. Nicole presented the hidden accounts in meticulous detail, showing how Liam had funneled money into private funds and lied about his financial state during the custody hearing. Liam sat stone-faced, occasionally muttering to his lawyer, but the overwhelming evidence left him with little to say. When he attempted to defend himself, claiming Ava was exaggerating, Nicole countered swiftly. These documents were verified by independent forensic accountants, Your Honor, Nicole stated firmly. This isn't about exaggeration, it's about accountability. The judge's expression grew stern as Nicole laid out the extent of Liam's deception. After days of hearings and arguments, the judge rendered a decisive ruling. Liam was ordered to pay significant penalties for his deceit, covering Ava's unpaid medical bills, child support, and additional reparations. The court also ruled that his financial manipulation would be subject to further investigation for potential fraud. Mr. Carter's actions not only violated this court's trust but also showed a complete disregard for the welfare of his child, the judge declared. This behavior is reprehensible and will not go unchecked. Liam's face twisted with fury as the verdict was read, but Ava felt an unfamiliar sensation: vindication. For years, Liam had controlled and undermined her, but now the truth was out in the open, and he was being held accountable. In the weeks that followed, authorities dug deeper into Liam's financial dealings, uncovering more layers of fraud within his business operations. Nicole kept Ava informed every step of the way. They're preparing charges, she told Ava one morning. This could result in criminal prosecution. The news of Liam's arrest came as a shock, even to Ava. Though Nicole had warned her about the possibility, seeing it unfold felt surreal. Liam had been charged with fraud and embezzlement, and his business empire was collapsing under the weight of his lies. At first, Ava felt conflicted. Despite everything, this was the father of her child. But then she thought about all the pain he had caused, not just to her but potentially to others who had trusted him. She realized that justice was being served, and she had no reason to feel guilty. For the first time, Ava felt truly free from Liam's shadow. His arrest marked the end of a long and painful chapter in her life. She was no longer looking over her shoulder or worrying about what he might do next. With the financial stability provided by the court's rulings, Ava was able to pay off her lingering medical bills and even start a small savings account for her baby's future. She began to focus on building a life free from fear, one where her daughter could thrive without the toxic presence of Liam. That evening, as she rocked her baby to sleep, Ava whispered softly, "We're safe now." The words felt like a promise not just to her daughter but to herself. The darkness Liam had brought into their lives was fading, and a brighter future was finally within reach. With Liam out of her life, Ava began focusing on rebuilding. She found a small, affordable apartment in a quiet neighborhood, far from the chaos he had brought into her world. It wasn't much, just a single-bedroom space with a leaky faucet and creaky floors, but it was hers. Most importantly, it was a place where her baby could grow up safe and loved. Life as a single mother was challenging. Nights were long, with her baby crying endlessly, and exhaustion often loomed like a heavy cloud. But each time Ava held her daughter, she was reminded of why she had fought so hard. Her baby's bright eyes and innocent smile gave her strength she didn't know she had. Mia remained a constant support. She often dropped by with groceries or stayed late to give Ava time to rest. "You've got this, Ava," she said one evening as they sat together on the worn living room floor. "You've already done the hardest part. You're free now." Ava nodded, realizing how far she had come. Though the scars of her past remained, they no longer defined her. Instead, they were a testament to her strength and resilience. It was in this new chapter of her life that Ava met Ryan, her kind-hearted neighbor. Ryan had been quick to lend a hand when Ava needed help fixing her leaky faucet, carrying groceries up the stairs, or keeping her baby entertained while she caught her breath. At first, Ava was cautious. After everything she had endured, the thought of trusting another man felt impossible. But Ryan was different. He never pushed, never demanded. Instead, he offered quiet support, showing her that kindness and patience could exist without strings attached. One evening, as they watched her daughter toddle around the small apartment, Ryan spoke hesitantly. "Ava, I care about you. About both of you. I don't want to rush anything, but if there's ever a chance for us to be something more, I'd like to be here for you." Tears welled in Ava's eyes. For so long, she had felt unworthy of love. Ryan's words didn't feel like a demand, they felt like a gift. Though she wasn't ready to rush into a relationship, Ava knew she wanted Ryan to remain a part of their lives. As Ava's life began to stabilize, she felt a growing desire to help others who had experienced what she had. The idea of starting a nonprofit for survivors of domestic abuse took root, inspired by her journey and the support she had received from Mia, Nicole, and Claire. She began small, reaching out to local organizations for advice and connecting with women who had escaped abusive situations. Mia became her unofficial partner, helping her brainstorm ideas and secure initial funding. Nicole, ever the advocate, offered legal advice and helped Ava navigate the complexities of setting up a nonprofit organization. The nonprofit, named Safe Haven, provided critical resources, legal aid, counseling, and temporary housing for women and children fleeing abusive environments. Ava shared her story openly at events, her voice trembling with emotion but filled with resolve. "I know what it feels like to believe there's no way out," she would say. "But there is, and I want to be part of the solution." One of the first women to seek refuge at Safe Haven was a young mother with 2 children. Ava listened to her story, holding her hand as she recounted her struggles. Seeing the spark of hope return to the woman's eyes was one of the most filling moments of Ava's life. News of Liam's fraud charges and subsequent conviction brought an unexpected sense of closure. His arrest had marked the end of a long chapter of pain, and knowing he could no longer harm others gave Ava a sense of peace. Occasionally, she would hear updates about him, brief mentions from Nicole about the fallout of his actions, but Ava no longer felt the weight of his presence in her life. She had moved on, and her focus was entirely on her daughter and her mission to help others. When Nicole called one morning to share that Liam had been sentenced to prison for his financial crimes, Ava felt a mix of relief and finality. "Justice has been served," Nicole said. Ava nodded, her thoughts turning not to Liam but to the future she was building for herself and her child. One sunny afternoon, Ava sat on the porch of her small home, watching her daughter toddle around the yard with Ryan. Laughter filled the air, a sound Ava had once thought she'd never hear in her life again. The journey had been long and grueling, but it had led her to this moment. Her nonprofit was thriving, offering hope to women who had once felt as trapped as she had. Mia remained a steadfast friend, and Ryan's quiet love had become a comforting presence in her life. Ava glanced down at her daughter, who looked up with a beaming smile. "You're my reason," she whispered. "For everything." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ava felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The scars of her past no longer held her back, they were a reminder of her strength. She had reclaimed her life, not just for herself but for her daughter and for every survivor she could help through safe haven. For the first time in years, Ava felt truly free, her life filled with love, purpose, and the promise of a brighter future. The road Ava had traveled was long and fraught with pain, but it had brought her to a place of healing and purpose. Her story was no longer just about survival, it was about transformation, resilience, and the power of reclaiming one's life. Ava's journey began in the darkest of moments when fear and abuse threatened to consume her. But step by step, she fought back, driven by a fierce determination to protect her daughter. Along the way, she discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed and a network of support that reminded her she wasn't alone. Through the battles in the courtroom, the nights of exhaustion as a single mother, and the overwhelming task of starting a new life, Ava had emerged stronger than ever. Her nonprofit, Safe Haven, was more than an organization, it was a testament to her courage and a beacon of hope for others. Every woman she helped reminded her that her pain hadn't been in vain. It had given her the tools to make a difference. Ava's story is a powerful reminder that even in the face of unimaginable hardship, there is a way forward. It's a message to anyone feeling trapped: you are stronger than you realize, and there is always a path to safety, healing, and hope. As Ava sat on her porch, watching her daughter play, she reflected on how far she had come. The scars of her past were still there, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they served as a reminder of her resilience and her ability to overcome. Her story is not just one of survival but of triumph, a testament to the power of standing up against abuse, seeking justice, and building a life filled with love and purpose. And as she looked at her daughter's smiling face, Ava knew the best chapters of her story were still ahead. Ava's journey wasn't just about escaping the shadows of her past, it was about creating a future where she and her daughter could thrive. It was a story of hope, strength, and the belief that even the darkest days can lead to a brighter tomorrow.